Is a dog trainer certification necessary? What are the benefits? And what if you don't obtain one?
Good question, and there is no governing body, we'll say, that says you have to have a certification. However, earning your certification means you have, one, committed to a program, two, you've learned the most updated training techniques or behavior information out there, and it puts you a step ahead of the person who just because they love animals and can get their dog to sit and their neighbor's dog to sit does not make them a dog trainer. Earning your certification gives you your book work as well as your hands-on training. So that part gives you a step above, Joe average, so to speak.
Where can students get certified? What do students learn in the ABC Dog Trainer program? And what do they learn that they can't learn elsewhere?
Well, our curriculum covers the basic canine information, learning theory. The learning theory is your technical terms in the field, your positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, your operant learning conditioning, things like that. So that you just don't learn you don't pick up that information anywhere else. We do have a stage on training tools. So we have a lot of the most recent training tools out there, leashes, collars, harnesses, crates, whatever is new in the field. We have that information. We give you a little bit of history about where obedience came from, starting with the war and then going mainstream. We go through a whole stage on all your typical cues. Remember, our program is basic obedience, so it is going to be your basic cues, such as sit, down, come, stay, your typical basic obedience cues. And then we have what I consider one of our most important stages is a whole stage on behavior problems. Your typical behavior problems, jumping, chewing, digging, soiling in the house, things like that. And the treatment plan you need to do for each one, okay? We talk about a whole stage on safety that, a lot of people may not think about if they've not been involved in a school, because, you have to know how to read a dog's body language a little bit. In a class, you may think, just because he's all happy and his tail is wagging, that he appears to be happy. That's not always the case. There's other factors that you want to look at. We give you a stage on some public speaking. As I mentioned in the beginning, we don't necessarily train dogs. We train humans to train their dogs. So you have to be able to speak to them. And speaking to them is not just always one-on-one. Most are comfortable with that. Sometimes you do have to do it in a group class setting where you've got anywhere from 10 to maybe 20, students and their dogs, clients and their dogs, I should say. And then we give you a stage on business building, which I think is so important because you may love dogs and you've come from playing with dogs and having dogs your whole life, but you don't know how to run a business. And if you want to be successful at it, yes, you have to be a good trainer, but you also have to know how to run the business. And vice versa. You have good business people who may not be good trainers until they learn. They go through that process. So we hopefully help them to do both of those in our program.
How much on average do professional dog trainers make?
That's a tricky question because that is very territorial, we'll say. I'm sure a trainer in Manhattan is going to make a lot more than a trainer in Des Moines, Iowa. You know what I mean? So it depends how much you want to do it. Part-time, if someone wants to work part-time, I say you're going to get out of it what you put into it. If you put 40 hours into it, a week, not only marketing yourself and talking to vets and, networking, that's your main thing. You can make a full-time career out of this and support your family. Very much so. And I'm not going to give you a dollar amount because it varies so much across the country. But depending where you are and what you put into it, you absolutely can make a career out of doing this. Or if you want to do it part-time and supplement your family income, that's the joy of it because it is quite flexible.
Where can dog trainers typically work?
The majority probably work just in their own area, but obviously now we have the Petco's and the PetSmart. You have big dog companies out there who are big, bigger organizations, not necessarily the big box stores, but big training companies. And you can find them, typically they are in your larger cities because of the supply and demand, but some are on the outskirts because that's where you can board and train and do all of that as well. But there are some big companies across the United States that do hire a lot of students as their employees, as well as the big box stores such as PetSmart and Petco. But majority, I will still say the majority are independent and train on their own.